You've got to have a good reason to brave the bitter cold of a Minnesota morning. Mel Wilson did. He had a secret that needed hiding. In March of 1971, Wilson jammed a part of his life into a metal drum and tossed it into the Mississippi. The barrel was supposed to sink into the muddy river bottom. Instead, Wilson's secret would drift downstream, where it was found a month later. It was nearly $250,000 in cash, and not worth a cent. Every last dollar was counterfeit. Tucked among the bundles were sets of metal plates used to print the bills. After dumping the contraband, Mel Wilson eventually left Minnesota and dropped from sight. He was never seen again. 25 years later, in Hawaii, 3 of Mel's 5 children from his 2 known marriages met face to face for the first time.
So he was how old when I was born? 24.
Now that they had found each other, the sisters began to piece together the mystery of the man they never really knew, their own father, Mel Wilson. Mel Wilson wasn't a person who could be taken at face value. In 2 marriages, he played the role of husband and father, even as he secretly pursued a life of crime. Wilson's duplicity has left a double unsolved mystery. His children are hoping to locate brothers and sisters from other marriages. Authorities would like to get their hands on Mel Wilson himself.
Would you prefer loge or general seating?
Loge, do you recommend it?
Well, I do if you smoke. If you like
Mel Wilson found wife number 1 in Berkeley, California. 17-year-old Ruth Fessenden was an usher at a movie theater.
What's your name?
Ruth?
Ruth, I'm Mel.
Mel?
Cold hands, Ruth.
They're always cold.
Warm heart?
I felt so flattered to be noticed by him. He was very tall, very good looking, obviously older than myself, so I thought he was very mature and wise and all. And the most lovely British accent. And I fell in love with that package.
There you go.
You know, I have to be home pretty quickly.
Oh, this little car is very fast.
Indeed, Ruth found Mel so beguiling that she eloped with him 1 month later. Wilson never mentioned that he had a history of passing bad checks and spending time in county jails. The Wilsons' first daughter, Leslie, was born 9 months after their marriage. 3 months later, Ruth was pregnant again.
You get all your stuff?
At a time when Ruth needed a quiet home life, Wilson dragged the family back and forth across California.
What are you, is it gonna go up top here, or?
No, we're leaving that couch.
But I like that
Wilson
couch.
said the moves were necessary for business, which in a manner of speaking was true. What he didn't say was that his business was forgery, and his specialty was payroll checks. The skillful fakes were readily accepted by local stores. When things got too hot, Wilson simply packed up his family and left town.
It's not complimentary to myself, but I was kind of caught up in his aura and not wanting to think that anything was wrong, and being very sure that I was a very lucky woman to be married to this charming man.
In 1953, Wilson was finally arrested and sent to prison. His 3rd daughter was born while he was an inmate at San Quentin. After his release, Wilson abandoned Ruth and their 3 daughters. He later did more time, a 2-year stint at Leavenworth.
Thank you for joining me for dinner.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
In 1963, Wilson turned up in Las Vegas. Now 36, he began to romance 19-year-old Amanda Satter.
Oh,
They're beautiful.
thank you very much. Where did you say you were from again?
Canada.
Wilson didn't tell Amanda about the family he had deserted or his repeated stays behind bars.
My parents died when I was young, and I was put in an orphanage.
Oh, that's awful.
What he did tell her was total fabrication.
You know, I was never adopted. I always told myself that I'd find someone and raise a family of my own.
Really? That's so funny because
3 months later, Mel and Amanda were married. Within 2 years, they had a daughter and a son. To the kids, Mel was a perfect dad.
And I remember I broke my foot, and I remember my dad carrying me around when I had my cast on, making sure the ice cream truck stopped when I was yelling for it. And I remember him, he used to scuba dive, and we'd always be down at the lake, and he'd be off with his inner tube, and my mom and my brother and I would be up on shore enjoying the water.
Remember, we used to go fishing occasionally with the whole family. We also understood that he had a job to do, and if he was on the road, he had to be there. But whenever he was with us, he was, a great dad. It wasn't the Cleavers, but then again, who is?
Wilson had now graduated from forgery to counterfeiting. In secret late-night sessions at the family-owned print shop, Wilson rolled out thousands in bogus 20s. However, when federal agents began investigating, Wilson moved the family and his operation to Minnesota. Within a year, the feds picked up his trail. Wilson then dumped his plates and most of the bills. He kept roughly $12,000 in pin money. As Wilson traveled from town to town, spending the counterfeits, authorities closed in.
Secret Service wants a break. Drop the briefcase. Right now. Hands in the air.
After Wilson was arrested, he cooperated with authorities. He pled guilty and gave them numerous statements about his activities in counterfeiting. And these statements all added up with the barrel they found in the river, with the notes and the plates and the negatives. So everything added up, and they knew he was telling the truth.
Wilson clearly expected a light sentence, but while out on bail, he learned that he was looking at 25 years hard time. In September of 1971, Mel Wilson blew town and never looked back, leaving another family adrift.
I feel angry at him for what he did, even though it was so long ago. It's his years of being fatherless, seeing your mother struggle, the way our lives could have been instead of the way they were.
Mel Wilson may have skipped out 25 years ago, but the U.S. Marshals Service considers his case open and active. From time to time, deputies contact Wilson's children. It was during one of those calls that Vicki and David first heard about Mel Wilson's other family. At Thanksgiving in 1996, Vicki went to Hawaii to meet two of Mel Wilson's other daughters, Leslie and Linda.
Probably with another family, totally oblivious to what his past is.
I refer to Vicki and David not as my half-sister and brother, but my new sister and brother. And I feel like I've always known them, and we've been having a great time.
Given Mel Wilson's penchant for marrying, fathering children, and then disappearing, the sisters can't help but wonder if there are more siblings waiting to be found.
I've never seen that one.
When we talk to each other, we always say we probably have more brothers and sisters out there. It's just, I'm sure he didn't stop living after he left.
This computer-enhanced photograph shows how Mel Wilson might appear today at the age of 69. He is 6 feet tall and when last seen weighed 180 pounds. Wilson reportedly had a fondness for music and enjoyed singing in choirs. If you are related to Mel Wilson or have any information about him, please call our toll-free number, 1-800-876-5353.